During the National Day holiday, my wife said she wanted to go out alone to relax, and I was worried that she would not be safe when she went out. After working overtime, I secretly bought a plane ticket and flew to the hotel where she was staying. Just as I stepped into the hotel with flowers and gifts, there was a sudden clamor in the lobby, saying, "Promise her, promise her." I looked in the direction of the voice and saw my wife standing in the crowd with flowers in her arms, looking gently at the boy half kneeling in front of her with a shy tone. "I am willing to hug and kiss in the next second." My heart gradually sank to the bottom in the blessing. The boy looked like he was just in his early 20s, young and handsome, and exuded youthful exuberance all over his body. I looked at my face reflected in the window glass, which was nearly 40 years old, and gradually vicissitudes. I felt a little breathless. When I looked back at them, the two were still hugging and kissing as if no one was around. I didn't make a scene. I calmly stuffed the flowers and gifts in my hand into the trash can, turned around and left the hotel, got on a taxi and headed straight for the airport. The nails that had pierced my flesh slowly loosened until the cheers behind me became farther and farther away, but the pain in my heart became more and more obvious, spreading to every cell along the blood. The 10 years in my memory were replayed in my mind over and over again. My wife Lu Ruyan and I have been married for 10 years. From the time we fell in love and knew each other at the age of 25 after a long time until today, it has been exactly 10 years. Today is the 10th anniversary of my marriage to her. In order to come and spend the anniversary with her, I worked 2 overnights to finish all my work and wanted to give her a surprise. But I finally overestimated my weight. My wife, the wife I have loved for 10 years, is already accompanied by a younger and more handsome man, and she doesn't need me at all. After returning home, I spent 3 days in a daze. Lu Ruyan came back. When she dragged her luggage into the house to change her shoes, she had a smile on her face, and she seemed to be in a good mood. When she saw me sitting on the sofa with an expressionless face, her smile instantly dimmed, and her tone was unhappy. "Lu Zhang, what's wrong with you? Didn't you see that I called so many times?" I flipped through the book carelessly, hummed, and didn't see that the phone was silent. I didn't want to answer it. He was stunned for a moment and frowned. In the 10 years of marriage, I have always answered his calls and messages in seconds. This is the first time he has seen such an indifferent attitude like today. Maybe he felt that he had something to hide. Even though he was a little angry, he still took out the gift he brought for me from his bag like a treasure. "This is a gift specially brought for you. Yesterday was our 10th wedding anniversary. Where is the gift you prepared for me?" I looked up and saw a Hermes tie in the exquisite packaging. He rarely gave me gifts. I always racked my brains to prepare gifts for him on various holidays. It's a pity that he even got the date wrong for the anniversary that he seemed to care so much about. This 10th wedding anniversary is of great significance to me. I had secretly prepared the gift a month ago, but now it's lying in the trash can. "Sorry, I forgot. His tone suddenly rose a few points, and the suppressed anger burned again. "You only know how to go to work every day, and you don't accompany me on a trip, but you even forgot the 10th wedding anniversary." I looked at him quietly, and I was furious, but I still didn't say a word. It was obviously his fault, but he found a reason to blame me. I know the usual tricks of cheaters. When I didn't say anything, he was like a fist hitting cotton. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore, and went to another room with the quilt. Every time he was angry with me, he would separate the room with me in anger, and force me to coax him and apologize to him before he would stop. But this time I didn't care. He said that I didn't know how many times his body had been touched by others, and I felt disgusted when he was 1 inch closer to me. Separating the room was the best choice. The next morning, I finished the breakfast I made for myself and went out. The first thing I did when I arrived at the law firm was to prepare to write a divorce agreement. I run a law firm myself and I can handle divorce easily. Facing the cheating of my lover of 10 years, even if there are many things that are difficult to let go, I still remain 10,000% rational. Once unfaithful, never again. This marriage is over. A new friend request popped up on my phone, with a pair of tightly clasped hands as the avatar. I recognized it was Lu Ruyan's hands at a glance, and the 3 words Li Yunxi were written on the request note. I have heard this name countless times from Lu Ruyan. She has been supporting poor college students since she went to college, and it has been almost 14 years now. Li Yunxi is only 22 years old, and he is already a junior this year. The boy in the hotel that night suddenly appeared in my mind, and I couldn't help but sneer. It turned out that the boy was Li Yunxi. I passed the application, and the other party sent a message soon, saying that Sister Ruyan and I have known each other for 14 years, and you can't compare with me. Like all the mistresses who show off in front of the main wife, he came up and directly provoked me. I looked at the joke and replied with 2 words lightly, "Really?" He replied almost instantly, "He can abort your child for me, which proves that he no longer loves you, so please give him to me and make us happy." He said that Lu Ruyan aborted my child for him. When I saw this, I gasped, as if a big hand was strangling my throat and I couldn't breathe. We have been married for 10 years, and we have been looking forward to having a child of our own. But about 3 years ago, She suddenly said that she didn't want to have children anymore, and started to take contraceptive measures secretly. At that time I thought she was under too much pressure and didn't think much about it. Now think about it, that year was Li Yunqi's first year in college after being admitted to this city. It turned out that they were together at that time. 2 months ago, she suddenly found out that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic and took better care of her, wishing to tell the world that I was going to be a father. I was not happy for a few days before he dragged his weak body to push open the door of the house. I still remember that day when I was in the kitchen making chicken soup for him, but he was lying on the sofa sadly and tiredly. I'm sorry that I accidentally fell today and the child is gone. I stayed there for a long time that day and couldn't come back to my senses. Turned out that it wasn't because of an accidental fall that the baby was aborted. Instead, he personally aborted the child we dreamed of for Li Yunqi. How could he be so cruel? My heart was broken for a moment. The sharp pain pierced through my heart and swallowed me up in an instant. I didn't reply to his message again. I stood up, tore up the printed divorce agreement and threw it into the trash can. It was impossible to make it happen. I didn't want to get divorced so soon. I just wanted to fight with them to see who could outlast whom. When I got home, Lu Ruyan hadn't come back yet. His business after graduation was very successful. The company has developed steadily and has already become the leader in the industry. Now he has a perfect career and is well maintained. Naturally, he is loved by young men. Compared with me, a middle-aged man who is nearly 40 years old and has a small green lock, he is really dazzling. When passing by the children's room, my steps stopped involuntarily. When I came to my senses, the door had been pushed open by me. Looking at the children's room that I decorated with joy 2 months ago. The small crib, very beautiful. I just want to hold your dream. English. The air became thinner, I was a little breathless, I changed my shoes, lit a cigarette, and prepared to go downstairs for some fresh air. But I stopped at the corner, my eyes passed through the curling smoke and fell on the streetlights in the garden. The autumn wind blew, the shadows of the trees swayed, and the figures under the lights were so familiar. Lu Ruyan raised her head and leaned closely against Li Yunqi. Yunqi, I'm already married, he treats me very well, we can't go on like this. His voice was soft, as if he was coaxing a child, and the sadness in his tone also told of his reluctance. Li Yunqi lowered his head, unable to see his emotions clearly, but his voice was choked with sobs, and he seemed to be pretending to be strong. Sister Ruyan, I know I told myself countless times that I can't disturb you, but I can't control myself. I can't forget you. Every time I close my eyes, my mind is filled with your shadow, your face, your body. Your voice was interrupted, and Lu Ruyan's hand had hurriedly covered her mouth. Under the moonlight, I clearly caught the deep heartache in her eyes. Before she could react, Li Yunqi had already embraced her in her arms and kissed her on the lips. Lu Ruyan froze for a moment but did not refuse. I admired them expressionlessly for a while, watching the two people tightly entangled in the moonlight. The pain in my heart had gradually become numb, until the two of them separated breathlessly. I turned around and went home in boredom. 10 minutes later, the door of the house was pushed open by Lu Ruyan. When she saw me on the balcony, her expression was obviously a little flustered. Husband, have you always been on the balcony? When she bought this house, it was this large balcony with a wide view that she took a fancy to. Standing on the balcony, you can have a panoramic view of the large scenery in the community. He was testing, afraid that I would discover the secret under the street light. When he saw me shaking my head, his tense body relaxed. I just came up from downstairs. Didn't you see me? I smiled faintly, glancing at the heavy expression on his face. I was newly infected with fear and spoke in a flat tone. It might be that it was too dark and I didn't see clearly. After I finished speaking, I went straight back to the room. After closing the door, the empty room returned to peace again. He didn't dare to ask any more questions, even though he had vaguely felt uneasy, but he was more afraid of piercing this thin and transparent window paper. Before going to bed, Lu Ruyan came to my room and said that she had a stomachache and asked me to rub it for her. I sat in front of the computer desk and refused without raising my head. I was sorry, I was a little busy and had no time. The stomachache was not true, but I wanted to move back to my room to sleep. Lu Ruyan didn't expect that he deliberately found a way to give me a way out, but I blatantly refused. From the corner of my eye, I saw the faint loss and depression in his eyes. He hesitated for a long time, but finally said nothing and turned away. At this time my phone received a new message. It was from Li Yunqi asking, "When are you going to divorce Sister Ruyan? How long are you going to trap her?" I couldn't help but sneer and replied, "If you have the guts, let her divorce me. You can do it." This letter she didn't reply to the message, but her ability to take action is indeed very strong. The next night I received the address of the restaurant she sent me, asking me if I dared to come. Haha, why shouldn't I dare? The first time I arrived at the restaurant, I saw Lu Ruyan slightly drunk, leaning intimately in Li Yunqi's arms, with intimate and sweet movements. From a distance they looked like a young couple in love. I suddenly discovered that her dress and appearance had changed from a mature and intellectual lady style to a youthful and beautiful girl style since I didn't know when. While I was in a daze, Li Yunqi was the first to see me. She smiled cunningly, stood up and greeted me. The moment Lu Zhen heard my name, Ruyan looked back at me in panic, her eyes full of surprise and panic, and asked, "Husband, what's wrong with you? You're here." I smiled and walked straight over. I was not as hysterical as she had imagined. Instead, I calmly poured myself a glass of wine and said in a light tone, "You called me when you were almost done drinking. You are so boring." Li Yunqi didn't expect me to be like this. Out of the trap, he felt that those things appeared several paragraphs of synonymous people what to do. With this heavy blow, blood slowly flowed down along the cold outline. The moment I fell, everyone panicked and the surroundings were in chaos. Husband, how are you? Don't scare me." she cried bitterly and held me in her arms, her hands trembling and tears hitting my face. I could feel her body temperature and the pounding heartbeat through her clothes, and feel her hysterical panic. She was really panicked. She was afraid of losing me, afraid that I would suddenly stop breathing and lose consciousness in the last second. I told myself in my heart that the 10 years of husband and wife love had finally been repaid today, and I could only live for myself in the future. The ambulance came soon. Fortunately, the wound was not big, just too much blood loss, not serious. When I woke up, I had a severe headache. Lu Ruyan lay tiredly on the side of my bed, holding my hand tightly. I frowned and pulled my hand away. Feeling my movement, she was awakened at once. Husband, you're awake. I ordered porridge for you. I'll go heat it up for you. His selfless dedication deepened his guilt towards me. Seeing his deeply wrinkled brows because he felt sorry for me, I knew he was in inner torment at the moment. His phone kept ringing, but he hung up all of them. Finally, he simply turned it off. When feeding me porridge, he hesitated and explained to me, I have always treated Yunqi as my own brother. He is in poor health and has suffered from depression. The doctor said that he cannot be stimulated, so I didn't. Before he finished speaking, I said, oh, lightly, and the ward was quiet again. On New Year's Eve, I politely prepared the holiday gifts and accompanied Lu Ruyan back to the Lu family for dinner. Father and Mother Lu have always been very good to me, the son-in-law. Even though Lu Ruyan and I are currently in a state of disharmony, I am still willing to respect them. He and Mother Lu were busy in the kitchen, while Father Lu pulled me to play chess. Everything was the same as usual. When the white flag fell, Lu Fu began his daily induction. Xiaozhang, you and Ruyan are not young anymore. Hurry up and have a baby. When I heard the word child, my heart, I grabbed her hard. The two elders didn't know that Lu Ruyan was pregnant, and they didn't know that he secretly aborted the child for his mistress. If they knew, they would be more heartbroken than me. After all, they were looking forward to the birth of this little life more than me. It was a pity that he was killed in his mother's belly before he was born. I was thinking about what excuse to use to respond when there was a knock on the door. I was close, so I got up to open the door. What caught my eye was the face that I would never forget in my life. Li Yunqi was holding 2 bags of fruit and standing respectfully at the door. While I was stunned, he ignored me and walked into the house. Uncle, Happy New Year. I'm here to see you. The moment Lu Fu saw him, his face turned black. What are you doing here? You are not welcome in my home, he said as he did it and pushed him out. Li Yunqi refused to leave and looked around the house eagerly. Uncle, I'm here to look for Sister Ruyan. She hasn't answered my call for several days. I have something to ask her. As she was speaking, Lu Ruyan had already walked out of the kitchen after hearing the sound. The moment she saw the person coming, visible panic flashed across her face, but she did not forget to maintain her composure. Linshi, today is the day our family reunion takes place. If you have any problems, come and find me after the new year. I have been an orphan since I was a child, and it is Sister Ruyan who has supported me for so many years. Can I spend the New Year's Eve with you this year? There was a pleading look in her eyes. Lu Ruyan felt distressed and could not say no. I smiled and took the initiative to invite her. Okay, sister, whom I have called you for so many years, come and stay for dinner. Of course you can. After hearing what I said, Lu Fu didn't know what to say, but his face was still dark and ugly. Li Yunqi stayed successfully. He stubbornly sat next to Lu Ruyan, and considerately picked up food for her in front of me. Our attitude was extremely intimate, just like lovers. Just as he picked up another piece of carrot and was about to put it in Lu Ruyan's bowl, I stretched out my chopsticks to block his movement. He never eats carrots. I stared at him and smiled faintly, but he seemed to be deliberately provoking me, and picked up another piece of ribs and put it in the bowl. It's okay as long as I pick it up, Sister Ruyan likes to eat it. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. I felt boring and too lazy to argue with the child. Father Lu on the side could no longer suppress his temper. He slammed the table and jumped up, saying, Little thing, please be more self-disciplined. Get out of my house quickly and don't come again. Lu Fu has been a role model for others all his life, and pays the most attention to his reputation. When he first knew that Lu Ruyan had sponsored poor college students from the mountainous areas, he was proud of it. He didn't expect that he would sponsor a time bomb in the end. How could he not be angry? Hearing the scolding, Li Yunqi not only did not restrain himself, but instead stuck his neck out with a clear mind. I won't leave. Sister Ruyan said that her home is my home. Lu Fu was furious and raised his hand to slap her, but was stopped by Lu Ruyan. This was the first time I saw Lu Ruyan, who was always gentle and quiet, so strong. She held Li Yunqi tightly in her arms. Like protecting some rare treasure, what could be wrong with Mom and Dad Yunqi? She has always treated me like her own sister. The father-in-law raised his hand trembling, and he sighed heavily after a long time. Li Fei refused to listen. If you get entangled with him again, your family will sooner or later break up. He has been teaching and educating people all his life. He has seen all kinds of people and things. The involvement between them is naturally not hidden from his sharp eyes. Lu Ruyan was slightly startled, and when she looked at me, the panic in her eyes was quickly wiped away by determination. No, Lu Zhang has always been considerate. He will understand me. He won't blame me. I curled my lips weakly. I just felt that this scene was a little ridiculous. Wearing a green hat on his head, it will take 3 or 4 years to become sour and smelly, but he said mysteriously confidently that I will understand him. Am I a cheap thing in his eyes? The once-a-year reunion ended in a farce. On the way home I drove in silence. There was no music or navigation. It was terribly quiet. Lu Ruyan was sitting in the passenger seat. She wanted to open her mouth to break the silence in the car several times, but she kept her mouth shut timidly. Finally, at the 7th traffic light, she couldn't help but speak. My husband Yunqi is in poor health. I did that to comfort her. I will keep my distance from her in the future. Please don't be angry, okay? I hummed indifferently, and the car fell into silence again. It seemed as if a thick barrier had suddenly separated him and me. No matter how he expressed his guilt and apology, I turned a deaf ear to him. Even when he said a lot of things later, I didn't hear a word. I just felt like an annoying mosquito buzzing in my ear, making me very irritated. In the past, when we were driving, I was the one who enjoyed myself tirelessly and was loyal to sharing everything, but he seldom spoke. He just sat quietly aside playing with his mobile phone and occasionally responding with a few words. 10 years of marriage have wiped out all our passion. Now that I am quiet, he is chattering instead. When the phone rang suddenly, Lu Ruyan's pretended cheerful voice was interrupted, and she glanced at me cautiously. I glanced over and saw that it was Li Yunqi calling. Sister Ruyan, I'm in so much pain, my head is so dizzy, am I going to die? Can you come and see me? In the rearview mirror, Lu Ruyan's expression was tense with clear visible worry and heartache. She looked up at me, and after hesitating she wanted to refuse cruelly. Yunqi, don't be like this, I immediately cried out on the other end of the phone. Sister Ruyan, you said that you would not abandon me, my life is so big, this is the first time I hear a boy crying so sadly, the lethality is really great. When the rustling crying sound came from the phone, Lu Ruyan's words of ruthless rejection that were brewing on her lips were instantly disintegrated, and she couldn't say a word. Husband, he opened his mouth to explain. I don't care, and said, go ahead, can you stop at the intersection ahead? He breathed a sigh of relief and promised me, I'll take a look and be back soon. I didn't respond again, and he got out of the car. He looked very anxious, hailed a taxi and left without looking back. In my opinion, all promises were unnecessary. He was destined not to come back tonight, so why bother pretending? That night, Lu Ruyan did not return all night as I expected. At about 3 a.m., Li Yunqi posted a circle of friends. In the photo, the woman had a peaceful sleeping face and messy hair. She wrote that no matter when, as long as I needed you, you would run to me regardless of everything. This is love. My heart was as calm as water. I silently clicked the like button. As soon as I put down the phone, Lu Ruyan called me. My husband, Yunqi, had depression yesterday and cried and wanted to commit suicide. I really couldn't leave. I was a little tired from taking care of her, so I accidentally fell asleep. I didn't mean to stay out. I don't want to pursue such boring questions as why he didn't come back at night. In fact, it doesn't matter to me whether he replies or not. It doesn't matter if he betrayed me and I gave up on him. This is fair. I said oh lightly and hung up the phone. I did not mention divorce. Lu Ruyan did not want divorce, but Li Yunqi 7 was looking forward to our divorce. This war without gunpowder began silently. In the days that followed, Lu Ruyan became much more stable and no longer stayed out all night, but the endless calls and text messages she received every day strengthened the wall of obstacles between us bit by bit. She tried her best to transform herself into a good wife who loved her husband and family, caring about him every day. I remained indifferent and continued to be busy with my career. After Li Yunqi graduated, Lu Ruyan came to me to discuss arranging him for the company. It was not easy for Yunqi to find a job after graduation. We are all family members, so I couldn't just leave it alone. I nodded in agreement. It was indeed him who did this. It's better not to release such talented people, or they will harm others. He looked embarrassed and shut up. On the first day of work, Yunqi sent me a proud boast. You see, Sister Ruyan will not ignore me. You are bound to lose. I smiled. Young people have a strong desire to win in love. I am old and too lazy to compete. I have my own career and my own pursuits. I really don't have time to care about him. To the outside world, Lu Ruyan and I maintained the image of a loving couple on the surface, and wandered around various social banquets. Relying on Lu Ruyan's resources, I got to know many leaders of large companies and won several large cooperation orders for my own firm. With my extraordinary professional ability and serious cooperation, my small firm quickly became famous and achieved a reputation in the industry. From time to time, as if to deliberately compensate, Lu Ruyan also recommended contacts and potential clients to me through various relationships. He wanted to exchange my forgiveness and smile in this way, but he miscalculated. When there were no outsiders around, I would immediately put away my smile and take away his hand on my arm. Every time I shook off his hand, I could see the loss and sadness in his eyes. Even though Li Yunqi was madly forcing him to divorce me, he never mentioned it and tried desperately to save this ridiculous marriage. In the days that followed, I put all my energy into investing and improving myself. This was the first priority. The title of Lu Ruyan's husband was more advantageous than mine. I would take advantage of this period of time to continue to rely on him and use this identity to get more. I have used my resources to strengthen myself. My work has become busier than when I started my business. I have to work until very late every day before I get home. Whenever I open the door, Ruyan is always the first to greet me. Hubby, you must be exhausted. Let me run you a bath. I shook my head and said, no, since the last time he did not come home, he seemed like a different person. No matter how late I get home, he always turns on the lights and sits in the living room waiting for me. Many times I stood downstairs, looking at the dim lights shining down from above my head. I was still a little dazed, as if I saw my former self through the waiting lights. There were countless nights when I stayed in the living room all night without sleeping, with the lights on, waiting for Lu Ruyan to come home. Now things have changed and I am no longer the one waiting. Are you hungry? My thoughts were pulled back, and I continued to shake my head and went straight back to my room. He seemed unwilling. The moment I closed the door, he held me, with inexplicable grievance and pleading in his eyes. Husband, it's been so many days. Even if you are angry, you should calm down. Don't ignore me. Let's go back to the way we were before. Okay? Looking back, he didn't have any emotions. We can't go back. Lu Ruyan, from the day you aborted our child for him, we can never go back. When he heard the word child, Lu Ruyan's face suddenly turned pale, and the hand holding me lost its strength and slowly drooped down. After a long while he choked and said, "You know everything. Your so-called good brother told me in person. I thank him for telling me so that I won't be kept in the dark all my life. Every time I mention children, my calm heart feels as painful as if it were stabbed by needles. Lu Ruyan, we have been married for so many years, and I really look forward to our children. But for that man, you so easily strangled our little life. Do you think we can go back?" She panicked and wanted to explain anxiously. "No, husband. Yunqi was very ill at that time. I had no choice but to not listen to any explanation." With a snap she closed the door. The first one who couldn't stand it was Li Yunqi. In fact, for things like cheating, all the faults cannot be unilaterally attributed to the mistress. If Lu Ruyan loved me enough and was firm enough in our marriage, it would not have led to today's situation. So I don't plan to say much to Li Yunqi, but he obviously didn't want to let me go. He kept making trouble to provoke me again and again. He began to be dissatisfied with sending various messages every day and declaring his so-called sovereignty of love to me. He suddenly appeared downstairs of the office one afternoon and stopped me. "Lu Zheng, let's talk." I looked up at him. He was a college graduate with a face full of youthful vitality. He was indeed more handsome than I was when I was young. I don't deny that while I was looking at him, he was also looking at me wantonly. His eyes were full of undisguised provocation, jealousy and resentment, as if I was the mistress who intervened in their relationship. "We have nothing to talk about. If you have something to do, go find your sister Ruyan. I don't have time. After all, time is precious. I don't want to waste my time on boring people and those who have nothing to do. Don't be hypocritical. On the one hand you act nonchalant, and on the other hand you occupy Sister Ruyan and don't let her be with me. It is obvious that the person she loves the most is me, but you force her not to even answer my calls. In love, the one who is not loved is the mistress, and you are the mistress. Give Sister Ruyan back to me. She doesn't look mentally normal." After being pulled by the security guard who heard the news, she still struggled to strangle my neck. In order to win me back, Lu Ruyan has deliberately kept a distance from her and dared not to cross the line. But he was broken, thinking that I was blocking me. Looking at the hysterical madness in his eyes, it was as if I saw a terrifying madman, so I secretly kept it. I was very careful and asked someone to investigate. After checking, I found out that he had never suffered from depression, but had serious psychological disorders. He was prone to extreme behaviors when stimulated. Lu Fu was right, he was a time bomb, but Lu Ruyan didn't know it. In a blink of an eye, a month passed. Through overtime efforts during this period, my law firm expanded again from 5 or 6 people at the beginning to more than 30 people now. The office was also moved from a shabby commercial building to the best financial city office building. When I was sitting in an independent office of more than 30 square meters, I printed out the divorce agreement that I had prepared for a long time and called Lu Ruyan, asking her if she was free this afternoon. "I have something to talk to you about." Since he came back from that trip, I have never called him on my own initiative. Today it was the first time that day, so when Lu Ruyan received my call, her voice was filled with joy and surprise that could not be concealed. "Husband, are you free? Can we go to the Western restaurant we went to last time? I heard that the steak there is delicious." She spoke with a hint of caution in her coquettishness, as if she was afraid that I would refuse. I had no objection. "Well, we are getting divorced anyway, so let's just treat it as the last time to have a decent meal." When I arrived at the Western restaurant, she seemed to have been waiting for a long time. "Sorry, there was a traffic jam." She smiled gently and said, "It's okay, I just got here too." Without any extra words, I pushed the divorce agreement in front of her. The smile on her face froze, and her eyes were red when she raised her eyes. "Do you have to get a divorce?" Her voice was trembling. I knew she was panicking. After so many years in the business world, she is no longer the naive little girl. How could she not understand the determination in my words? She was just avoiding me deliberately and dared not accept the fact. I nodded and said firmly, "Yes, but we have been married for 10 years. You obviously saved me at the risk of your own life last time. You still love me, right?" After I said this, she was already sobbing, tears running down her delicate face, and her shoulders trembling slightly. I was calm and replied lightly that I didn't love her anymore. I hadn't loved her for a long time. Lu Ruyan's shoulders trembled even more violently. The sunlight outside the window fell on her, and I suddenly found that she had aged a little. The wife who I once loved deeply for 10 years had unknowingly become a stranger. After a long time he calmed down. "Okay, I promise you, your father who is far away in my hometown, my mother heard that I was going to divorce Lu Ruyan, and she called me anxiously to persuade me, saying that you and Ruyan have been married for 10 years. How can you get divorced just like that? You are already 35 years old, not young anymore. You should be more steady in doing things and not act on impulse." They said a lot in a sincere manner, but fell silent after what I said. I said that it is better to waste 10 years of relationship and see clearly a relationship than to waste a lifetime. I have wasted 10 years in my youth. I don't want to continue and waste the rest of my life. Lu's father and mother didn't say anything. They seemed to have predicted the result in advance and were not as excited as my parents. I just received a text message from Lu's father in the middle of the night, saying that he would come back often to see me and your mother, and that even if you get divorced, it's our son. My nose felt sore and my eyes were red for the first time. If you ask me what I have gained from this 10-year marriage, it is this ordinary and hard-earned relationship between father-in-law and son-in-law. In the past 10 years, Lu Ruyan's parents have been very good to me. After a long while, I firmly replied with 3 words, "Okay, Dad." There was no hysterical quarrel, no life and death struggle. The divorce procedures were smoother than I thought. Lu Ruyan knew what she owed me and took the initiative to give up 60% of the common property. I did not refuse. I gladly accepted it and moved out of the house where I had lived for 10 years to start a new life. Before leaving, I sent him the Real medical certificate of Li Yunxi. After all, she was the wife I had loved deeply for 10 years. Even if we were divorced, I didn't want to see him step into the abyss. Just as it was to repay the kindness that Lu's father and mother had shown me over the past 10 years. Lu Ruyan and I no longer had any contact in our lives. Later, I heard that after divorcing me, she became depressed and drank all day long. She seldom dealt with the affairs of the company. There were many problems in the management of the company. Several major cooperation projects had serious mistakes. The capital chain was broken at once, and it was not long before it declared bankruptcy. However, Li Yunqi still pestered him relentlessly, threatening to commit suicide at every turn. After going through so many things, the freshness and patience that were stirred by youth had long been worn out. When faced with Li Yunqi's entanglement, Lu Ruyan had become disgusted with him, and began to ignore him, avoid him, and even beat and scold him. How much he loved this man who brought her vitality and pain. I have never seen a passionate lover before, and now he hates him so much. When I heard the news, I couldn't tell how I felt. Maybe I felt a little relieved, but it was more complicated. Li Yunqi was stimulated, and he put all his hatred on me. He stubbornly believed that it was me who hindered the love between him and Lu Ruyan. The night when he couldn't find Lu Ruyan again, he was waiting at the door of my office. When I came out, he rushed out like crazy and stabbed my arm deeply with the knife during the struggle. I called the police. After verification, the police sentenced him to 3 years in prison for intentional injury. He finally paid the price for his actions. After hearing the news, Lu Ruyan came to my husband crying. I had been deceived by him for so many years. He deceived me. He said he had depression, so I depended on him in everything. Can you please forgive me? Can we be together? Can we have a baby again? A baby that belongs to us, okay? The one I have always loved is you, only you. Can you please give me another chance, okay? His eyes were red and swollen, and his face was full of tears, making him look extremely embarrassed. The previous fresh breath had become dull, and even his temples were a little gray. I expressionlessly pried open his hands that were holding my pants, and there was no warmth in his tone. It will never be possible. There are always people who don't know how to cherish what they have, and have to wait until they lose it to regret it. But no one will always wait there. When will he understand that some things once lost are lost for life? Muster up the courage to say goodbye, and you will be rewarded with a new beginning. The end.